The following message is brought to you by Balsamiq. Balsamiq have decided to support the SaaS District community by donating their sponsored airtime to some of our listeners. This episode is sponsored by Coffee Pals, a platform that matches people in your organization for weekly coffee through Microsoft Teams. By building personal relationships in your organization through coffee chats, you'll increase engagement, morale, and productivity. They even offer a 30-day free trial to all of their pro plans so you can try it out with your team or your organization. Start new conversations and build deeper relationships to create engagement across your organization by visiting coffeepals.co. If you'd like to receive a promo code for a 90-day trial of Balsamiq, or even just thank the folks at Balsamiq for supporting our community, visit balsamiq.com/go/SaaS-District today. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Akil Jabbar, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS District. In today's episode, we're starting our special episodes as part of a mini-series for this month called Inside Balsamiq, where we interview different team members of a SaaS company, in this case, Balsamiq, to learn their expertise as part of their overall business strategy. In today's mini-series of Inside Balsamiq, we're going to talk about how to resist feature creep and better project management and prioritization. Today, we have our guest, Peldi from Balsamiq joining us. Peldi is the founder and CEO of Balsamiq, a fully bootstrapped company focused on wireframing and UI UX. So Peldi first joined us where he shared his full background and story on episode 18. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure to go back and listen to that episode. Otherwise, welcome, Peldi. Super excited to have you back on the SaaS District show today.
Thank you, Akil. I'm very excited to be back. Thanks for having us.
So I want to get into, the part of the main core of this episode, which is, a tough challenge in SaaS product management, right? So in terms of how to decide what to prioritize when you have so many features to decide on, what to work on next, how to prioritize what is right. Most of the time it's growth, but I know in your case, it's a little bit different. How does Balsamiq choose what to work on? How are you guys keeping track of what you could possibly do and work on next? What's your framework there? Yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me rejoice in the fact that this is a product management topic, and my dream in life is still to become a product manager. It's my favorite thing to do. So I'm honored that you will ask me these kind of questions. But, I don't have any formal product management training. I just have a lot of industry experience. I've shipped a lot of things in my career. So what I've learned is that how to prioritize, it's an art form. It's super important, but it can be learned. So we have a few techniques that we use. So first of all, we bucket things into three different buckets. We have features, bugs, and chores. So obviously, you know what features are and bugs. Chores is work that is invisible to the customer, but that needs to be done. So some refactoring or fixing a security patch or adding monitors on your servers to make sure you get alerted when they're about to go down. So those are the chores. So once you have those three categories, then prioritizing kind of becomes an exercise in, I see these three categories as three different accelerator pedals, and you can decide what to push at each moment. So sometimes you push more on features, sometimes you push more on bugs, sometimes you push a little bit on all three. How to decide largely depends on the life cycle of the product that you're working on. So say it's a new product with 0 customers, right? You're just building it. There, it's all features all the time. Obviously, you have to build the thing. Mm-hmm. You might fix a few bugs that you find yourself, but you don't have any customers to tell you about them. You probably don't have a QA team involved so much at this point. So it's all features for however long it takes you, a few months to build the MVP, right? Then when you're about to ship it, you do an alpha, you do a beta. Then the number of features kind of dies down a little bit. Maybe you'll finish a few of the features that you really want to have for launch. But in the meantime, it's time to really start focusing on bugs, because you don't want to ship a buggy thing because it will make a terrible wrong impression. We go so far into having a gamma after a beta, which is a paid beta, invite-only release, where basically people are also paying to be for the product. So that allows you to build all the payment processing, all the invoicing, and test all that in a nice, friendly environment, because it's still considered pre-launch, right? Mm-hmm. And so during that gamma, all you want to do is really fix a ton of bugs until all the people in the gamma are happy. And that tells you that you're ready for launch. So at this point, you might also do some chores, like making sure you have the continuous integration server set up. You have a way to create staging environments easily, things that are chores, but that you will need once you launch. So then you launch, right? And if you've done the gamma for long enough, you shouldn't have any disaster, but you will still get a bunch of bug reports from customers. So feature work completely dies down at this point for a while, and it's all about bugs. And then if you start scaling fast enough, you got to work on chores. You got to make sure that your infrastructure can scale to keep up with demand, right? So at this point is a bunch of chores, a bunch of bugs, and no features whatsoever. So this is called surviving launch, right? Then after a while, things kind of normalize. The product is solid. You don't have as many bug reports. The servers are humming along nicely. So at this point, you can start thinking about building new features again. By this time, a few months have passed since launch. You know exactly what the rough edges are because your customers have been telling you. And so it's easier to pick what features to add next. So then you gradually add more features, shift your focus to that. And then you enter what I call product, the normal life, the midlife of a product, which hopefully will last 10 years. Likely less in this environment, but certainly a few years. And in this case, you're basically pushing on all three accelerators at once. You do some chores, you do some bugs, and you do some features. And every release is a combination of all these things. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that, the time between releases gets longer as you progress, right? When you're building features, you release because you're not releasing to anyone. So you release every commit, right? Then in alpha and beta, you release daily or every other day. Then in the gamma, once a week. Then you launch maybe once a week if it's a little buggy. Once it's more stable, you can release every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then when you reach the sort of midlife, I think once a month is a good, other than hot fixes, bugs, urgent things. But once a month I've found is a good pace for customers to keep up with, and for your employees to also not always be in release mode, to be able to work on larger things. So that's sort of the normal proportion. Then if you're sunsetting a product, then obviously you stop building features and you gradually stop fixing bugs and stop fixing chores until you kill it, But in general, the majority of the time is sort of this midlife phase. And in this phase, we prioritize bugs over chores and features. So we do maybe 40% of our time on bugs, I don't know, 30%, 25 on features and 15 on chores. I don't know, something like that. But we do prioritize bugs first. I think that's very important, because if you have a lot of bugs, your support team is going to struggle. Your development team is going to struggle, right? Or either you hire a bunch of people, but if you instead you focus on being solid, then you can make do with fewer people and people are happier, etc. Of course, you cannot just focus on bugs, because some bugs are really not worth fixing. It happens once every year, for one customer. That's not worth the trouble, right? And you can never fix all the bugs because they just keep coming, right? And it's not really worth your time, because if all you do is fix bugs, then your customers might leave because you're not shipping anything new, right? Right. So a good amount of bugs is good, just not too much, I guess. So very convoluted answer, but I feel like it does require these different speeds depending on what phase of your product's life cycle you're in.
No, I love how you kind of break it down and structure that. I think that thinking is good to how you approach the product cycle. And you mentioned, so when you reach that midlife cycle, I think that's where most of the time you're kind of in more of a stable phase and you're focused on just growing and slow growth of the product. In that first phase, so alpha, beta, gamma, what is the time frame you generally think is a good time to get to that point? So this is the time you want to invest to it, and then now you have a good product. 10 years, let's just actually start monetizing this and building a good business here.
Well, let me tell. I can think of our latest web app, our latest product that we launched in 2018. So, I mean, I guess it depends on what company you are. If you're Facebook, right, you have thousands of engineers, then you're going to go faster, of course. But for a small SaaS like ours, we have maybe 15 engineers overall. I'd say, actually, yeah, maybe 10 work on the core product. So for a smaller company, it takes a while. Especially because we don't have investors, so we take our time. We want to do it well. We don't really have a lot of pressure, competitive pressure, or we don't have to run. So in our case, it might take 6 months to get to an alpha. Then it takes another 3 months to get to a beta. Then maybe another 4 months to get to a gamma. Then we like to run our gamma for a while, at least 6 months. But really, you've already shipped. It's just private. So, right. So that can last a long time because you're already making money. So we do 6-8 months of that. Then there's the survive and launch phase, which, depending, might take another 6 months probably. And then there's gradually maturity. I mean, middle. I don't want to call it mature because mature means sunsetting. Normal, stable life, and that can last as long as possible. Probably, our previous web app that lasted 5 years until we decided to rewrite it with a new product. So that's kind of the time frame. I'd say a couple of years from 0 to midlife, and then 5 years or 10 years if you're lucky for the long phase.
Got it. No, that's super helpful. And one thing we see a lot of founders, maybe your product managers thinking about is all around features, right? I think that's what for some reason, that's the main focus because it seems like new and exciting and more and more. Rather than fixing what's there, it just seems to sound better for users. Like, look at this new thing we got, new shiny object, right? Why prioritize bugs over these other stuff? Features, UI, new design, and all these fancy stuff.
I think having too many features is a mistake. When I see our competitors shipping features furiously, I get a little smile because I know that they're basically shooting their own foot. If you have too many features, your product becomes too complicated. So you got to raise your price. You got to have more tutorials, webinars. It's a completely, it changes. It doesn't, unless that's your strategy, right? You want to start with something simple, but then you want to move up market or whatever, make it an enterprise something, which is impossible to use, right? But it doesn't matter because it's the CIO that buys it and forces the whole company to use it, right? Then that's one thing. But if you have a vision for a product that is kind of complete, that does one thing and does it well, adding too many features is actually hurts because it just loses its soul. It becomes much more complicated than before. So, I kid that we have a newsletter and I always want to say, hey, guess what? No new features this month. You don't have to learn anything new. We're not changing anything. You can just do your work in peace, because people are pissed off when you add a new feature and change things. People don't like change.
That's right.
They just want to get in and do their work. When they come in a new a SaaS, especially, and it's all different, they have a meeting in an hour. Just let me work. I don't want to learn your new thing.
Exactly.
So we're very careful in adding features. We always try to put them as hidden as possible. We don't bring attention to them in the UI because recent doesn't mean more important necessarily, So, we're overall, I think, I'm pretty proud of the fact that on first glance, our UI hasn't really changed over the years. Although we've added, 100 features to it, but they're small and considerate and only there for those people who actually need them. The power user features are very hidden. They're there, but they're very hidden. Especially in our case, where we tried to build a product for beginners, it's really hard to resist the temptation of building pro-level features. Because we do have people who live in our app all day, every day. And of course, they have some demands. But we try to really stay focused on being everyone's first user experience tool. And so that takes a lot of discipline, I guess. And it takes a lack of ambition because we could make it a pro tool, charge more, go enterprise, get VCs, right? But then who's going to serve all the people that we serve right now? Right? And we don't want to have two different products because it can sort of confuses the message. And we don't want to go through that accelerated growth. We're happy the way we are. So because of that, we're able to say no to a lot of features that don't really fit with the vision.
So I think that's a super important point, right? Which is, that self-discipline, which you talked about. So there's one side of being ambitious and wanting to go down that path. So, understand that. But in the case where, it's just about, avoiding feature creep, do you have any maybe suggestions or frameworks or tips you give to maybe founders to come to you and say, look, I have a product team. I have all this vision. I want to build this and build this out. And you tell them hold on, you should focus on this. What do you typically tell them? How does that conversation look like?
Well, I think it just takes being burnt a few times before you really learn. I've shipped things in the past where now we're stuck with it. And nobody likes it. And it doesn't really fit with the rest of the product. But taking it away is nearly impossible, right? So once that happens to you a couple of times, then you become better at learning how to say no to things that don't really fit. It's hard to explain. It's kind of a feeling of, you're crafting something and does this new idea fit in a corner of it? without really taking us down a path that maybe long term we don't want to go down. I don't really, other than having a lot of experience, I don't really know how to give advice, because everybody says, "Oh, you have to say no all the time." Well, it's true, but sometimes you don't have to say no. So how do you decide when not to say no? So in my mind, it's the more I understand my customers, the easier it is to understand what product they want, right? So we don't do any analytics. We talk to customers all the time. We have one person that does, 5 interviews a week all the time. We have a support team that's constantly talking to customers. We try to really foster a very tight feedback loop. We have a Slack community, and we know what our customers want to do and what they want from us very clearly. And so we're driven by that, but to a point. Our main, one of our top requested feature is rotation. The ability to rotate any UI control that you use in Balsamiq. It's the number one feature. I'm never going to do it.
Why is that?
Number one feature request. I'm never going to do it. Never.
Okay.
Right? Because it just doesn't fit. Because then it's a simple thing, but it completely changes the nature of the product. Then we become much more a generic drawing tool. And now we got to compete with a million other generic drawing tools. And also, sure, it might look nice to you to put a button at an angle, but your developer is going to hate you because that's not easy to implement, right? I don't want you to be able to use my product to make crappy UIs. I'm sure you can still, but I'm not going to make it easy for you to do the crappy work, right? So, and then there's some other things that, maybe 2 people ask for, but they are brilliant for a beginner, which is where our core customer base is, and we'll do them immediately, right? So
interesting.
I think it's all about knowing your customer as well as possible.
So it's not really about the, kind of 80-20 rule of like, okay, 80% of our users are asking for this feature, even though, it might be it, or, we ignore the 20%, but it could be just those 1 or 2 people who are like the perfect fit at the right phase. And it's just something they pointed out that nobody ever else did. Right. And that's the game changer right there.
Yeah. So I think that it's all about having a strong vision, meaning that you protect that vision over time. Resisting the sirens, the mermaids, of new stuff, to stay focused. And I think that's powerful. That's, I think, one of the reasons of our success.
And I just want to touch that maybe as the last question before we get into kind of the personal rapid fire, which is, how you stuck to your core vision from what it was from the beginning to where it is today. And you didn't get tempted by, what the norm is by, typically in SaaS companies, meaning you're bootstrapped, you're profitable, you're happy to grow, single digits a year. You're not focused on high growth. Like, I talked to your team, KPIs and OKRs and a little bit, but, growth targets and, marketing isn't tracked. Like, that just blows my mind. But you're okay with that. And what's the thought around that? And maybe why did you decide to go that route? Then there's no right or wrong answer. That works for you.
We've always made more money than we needed. And so this has allowed us to focus on creating a company that we want to work at, and a company that other people might want to work with, and focusing on the product, focusing on the customers and their needs rather than investors and their needs, And so as long as we do that and have a good time doing it, we're happy. More money means more risk, more, bigger company, which means it's harder to manage. I don't know. It's more stress, definitely more stress. We're making plenty to go around for all of us, and we give back a ton to charities. And so we're happy in our little corner of the internet.
No, I love it. And I mean, I think that is the challenge of like knowing when is enough versus that you always think you need more, right? And when you're like, okay, no, like we're actually okay. Just looking at it like, we're actually okay. We don't need more. And that's tough.
We're making plenty. We're a 33-person company. This year, revenue should be around $7.7 million. You know, it's a good company. We're totally happy.
Yeah. Oh, well, good job. And I know proud that you've been able to stick to that.
I guess, you know, a word of caution, which is we're lucky that we're building a tool. Because tools are, you know, how many brands of screwdrivers are there? Hundreds. They all do the same thing, but the market can digest many, many brands building the same tool, right?
Right.
So tools are like that, where there's not a winner takes all, even on the internet. There's a lot of graphic design tools. There's a lot of marketing tools, you know, people will use the tool that they like best. So in our case, we don't have to grow to survive. We can stay at our size and people kind of leave us alone. But not everybody has that luxury. If you're building a marketplace, you'll have to be the one, or, you know, there can be one or two winners, but that's very expensive. You have to get everybody to know your brand. You have to do TV ads, you know. And so in that case, you have to make a lot of money, or you're not going to last. Right.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Shifting kind of gears here, Peldi, moving to the fun, you know, rapid fire questions. This has been great. Obviously super helpful for people listening in. Let's start off with, what's your favorite hobby outside of work that you say gets you into flow state? Maybe other than, you know, planting those beautiful plants.
Yeah. Well, I do a little bit of plants, but I think woodworking is my favorite. Look, I'm showing my bowls that I made just last week.
Bowls
Yeah, little wooden bowls. I love the lathe. It's super relaxing. It's like surfing on a piece of wood. It's so I do a bunch of woodworking. That's really where I lose track of time, just like coding.
Love it. Beautiful. What's something people usually learn only after it's too late?
I was not prepared for this one.
Just some past
we mentioned one example, right? That too many features is bad. More features is not always good.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic one.
To back up your photos.
That is very good. Yes, you just never know. Back up. Get that extra hard drive.
But once it happens, then you learn.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. So obviously you've had some great success. I mean, you're happy with where you are. You built a solid team and continuing to grow. What motivates you to keep working hard after so much success in these years?
The same thing that motivated me to start this company, which is learning. There's so many learning opportunities. I haven't had a job like this where you have to learn so many different things. I decided to be a solo founder because I wanted to see what does it take to really do everything, from idea to support to legal to pricing to coding to server side, et cetera, right? Marketing. And you have to really continuously roll up your sleeves, and you're always faced with new challenges. And then as the team grows, you have to learn how to become a manager, people issues, giving feedback, delegating. It never ends. And it's been 14 and a half years, and I'm still learning so much that I'm never bored.
Learning, education. Yeah, that's what keeps it interesting. So you have a dog here named Lucy, right? So a couple of things. What's her name? Is that her name?
That's Lucy. There she is.
Yeah. Oh, there she is in the background.
She's sleeping.
She's taking a nap. What's her favorite meal? And why did you name her Lucy?
The name came from our son. He picked the name when he was. We got her when he was 10, so we let him pick the name, and I don't know how he chose it. But Lucy unfortunately has to eat a very specific diet because she had bladder stones. She had to get emergency surgery at some point for it. Mm-hmm. And so she has to eat the specific food for dogs that have bladder stones. And she has to drink bottled water. We don't even drink bottled water, but we buy a bottled water for her.
Dogs are not cheap, eh? They can get very expensive very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I like this question because it's not like, what's the best trick that you taught Lucy? It's what's the best trick Lucy has taught you? Is that right?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, dogs are great because they really live in the moment. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to see, and it's a constant reminder of how great it is to really live in the moment. And then I like that she needs her walks every day. It kind of reminds me to work out. It's part of her body. Her body needs to move. And so my body doesn't remind me as much. But the fact that I have to walk her makes me want to work out as well.
Nice. That's awesome. I have 2 dogs myself, and I know they force me to do the walks every day, at least 2-3 times. Yeah, they're ready to go. Right. So final question, Peldi, before we wrap this up. If you were to start a business from scratch today, it doesn't have to be a SaaS, it could be anything. What would it be? What would get you interested and excited?
Well, that's interesting because I just started another business a few months ago, and it's a luxury Airbnb in the countryside in Italy.
Okay.
So completely not software related, but I feel like tourism is really growing, and we had this opportunity to build this house in the country, and it came out nice. So now we want to rent it too.
Beautiful. I can imagine that's more of like the product, you had a vision around it, and now the customer experience is all tied in together
It's pretty interesting. I'm using a lot of lessons from Balsamiq in this new business, even though it has basically nothing to do with software.
No, that's all right. I mean, that's not always about software. Awesome. Thank you so much, Peldi. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, thanks a lot. I like this idea of doing a series of interviews with the same company, and I'm looking forward to listening to whoever you pick next.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm enjoying it as well. Thank you, Peldi.
Thank you, Akil.
Cheers. Thank you all for watching this episode and joining SaaS District today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes where we interview top leaders in the SaaS industry. If you're a SaaS company looking to grow and unlock the true value of your business, get in touch with us at Horizon Capital, and myself or one of our consultants will provide a free assessment to help you get there and hit your goals. If you have any feedback or suggestions for this podcast, please comment down below and help us improve our content for you all. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.